Salah-hu-deen and Khaja and all that is an old relationship.
You say you are a Messiah?
I'm a king.
You are the king?
Yes.
Who is the Messiah?
I am the king. You got to keep doing that. I'm the king, you see. I'm doing it again. Yeah. Because it's a point. You know this is going to end badly, so you have to clown it out. Content over everything. You're going to say something?
I think it feeds into a bigger picture here that we have to understand. And I'm going to reference back the recent attacks in New Zealand.
Okay.
And the reason why, because it links back to Africa. Now, one of the things that this perpetrator, he who must not be mentioned, said that there was this fear of this genetic annihilation of white people, the fall of a white world, so to say. Now, these ideas are nothing new. They're actually quite prevalent in a lot of the historical and academic books that have been written. And I think what we're seeing now taking place in Africa is proxy wars taking place on behalf of a larger concern. Now, in 1922, a book was written by an individual by the name of Lothrop Stoddart. He wrote a book called The Rising Tide of Color Against White World Supremacy. Now, he said the main obstacle to the continuation of white domination of the globe was Islam. And he particularly singled out Islam in Africa. And he said the spread of Christianity in Africa is like a myth. He said it's failing. But he said Islam is spreading. And he said, and what his fear was is that this kind of like jihadist mentality would be infused in Africans, and there would be a military pushback against imperial domination by the European nations and a neo-colonialism, which Kwame Nkrumah actually spoke about. So I think when we see issues of the Fulani, the Dogon, these are issues where, yes, there are nature concerns. Nature here is taking place. And it's kind of like, I haven't gone too much into the desertification, but I'm reminded of King Canute that stood in front of the water trying to hold back the water. Are we going to hold back something that's going to naturally take place? I don't know. I think it's something that's open to debate. But I think what we are seeing with different tribes that have maybe religious affiliations to them, or even no religious affiliation, is we are seeing a playing out of a proxy war to maintain instability in Africa, to stop the point that you're talking about is a cohesive coming together for the usage of African resources for the benefit of Africans.
You know, Brother Abdul Karim, you're bang on. There is a meme going around on social media showing if there's another Rift Valley explosion or cataclysm, the Horn of Africa will actually be ripped completely off, so that Africa will be Africa, but without parts of Egypt, parts of the Sudan, parts of Ethiopia, and parts of and the whole of the Somalias. That entire, because the Rift Valley is going to break right through. But here's what I think, sister. There is already a virtual Hippo trench cutting across Africa, across what we call the Sahel. It's cutting there, and it's based on religion. The dividing tool that's being used is religion. I feel that George Bush must have kicked himself when he realized he spent so much time stumbling around in Iraq. He left Africa side door wide open to the Chinese. So AFRICOM had to rush back in there and create a situation to justify. AFRICOM is an American base up in Djibouti. They had to rush back and say, sister, how you doing? Yeah, I'll talk to you in a second. Yeah, they had to do this in order to justify why they're back. So as you know, they created a situation in 2006 in Somalia for Ethiopia to invade.
Well, let's take it back to the 70s.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's take it back to the 70s and the oil embargo that was implemented on the West. Who were the main supporters of it? Nigeria. Who broke it? the Arabs, but yet it was supposed to be for the Arab benefit. Now, what did the Americans do? The Americans played it or planned for the military invasion of Nigeria, but they said the population is too much. There's no way that we would be able to capture the oil reserves. We know in 2000 when they released Projects for a New American Century, and they said that one of our key goals is the maintenance of oil reserves for Western benefit. Dick Cheney, behind the scenes, was pushing for Nigeria to leave OPEC because they said, your oil is sweet cruise and we love it. It's the best in the world.
That's right.
It is the best in the world. We know now Somalia are finding out have got oil reserves. And it's just playing out. This is the continuation of the great game, the colonial powers. But what they're doing is that they're pitting religion, Christian versus Muslim. Now, I'm going to bring it back.
Okay.
Into the wider diaspora between the Pan-Africanist, the Afrocentrist, and the Muslim.
Okay.
Now, I believe there are certain elements within those groups that wants to instigate an animosity between those three elements.
Why would they want that?
Because I believe it keeps the diaspora disunified and gives them the inability to unify with concerns in Africa. And this is one of the things that if we look at Kwame Nkrumah, that he was trying to do. He said himself, let's not Jew and Muslim and Christian, if you're in Africa, be a means to fight against each other at the instigation of the colonial powers. And with all due respect to people like Professor Molefi Asenti, I call him a black Orientalist because the majority...
Strong language there.
That is.
I'm going to back it up. No, but I'm going to back it up.
Okay,
Because the majority of his discourse against Islam is Orientalist based. He says, the Arabs are foreign people.
Right.
Who do you define as Arab? And how
That's a whole new discussion.
No, but this
we
plays,
can do that next
no,
week.
but this plays into the wider game. The wider game.
Okay.
That this idea that Arab Islam come in and these foreigners. Number one, before the Europeans went into Africa, Arabia was classed as part of Africa. It was Northeast Africa. The term Middle East was created by an American journalist in 1850 to justify British colonial expansion in the Middle East. Before then, that part of the world was seen as Africa. If we look at the history and the origin of the people, they're African people. Arabic is an African language. Let's take out this word Afro-Asiatic.
Okay.
Let's take it. Asiatic is just a European term. The language is African. The people are Africans. This is in the history. It's common. But what
I want to challenge you a little.
Go on.
I want to challenge you a little.
Go on.
I am persuaded by much of what you say. To the extent that I consider Arabic an African language would be the reason why I consider Afrikaans an African language.
Right.
I wouldn't consider Afrikaans, it's not Dutch. What happened to Afrikaans in Africa, it developed a life of its own.
Right. Okay.
Now, Arabic has been in Africa since 640 AD, but actually it's been there longer. The Kawahala Arabs used to travel between the Hejaz and Kassala in the Sudan across the Red Sea long before Islam.
Yeah.
So there was that interaction. Plus, as you know from Professor Christopher Ehret, the Afrasian language family, out of which Arabic is one branch, developed near the Red Sea Hills region in northeastern Sudan, southeastern Egypt. All right. So to that extent, I agree with you. I believe that if Arabic language or the Arabic languages that have developed in Africa from Egypt to the Maghreb, in Chad, in northern Niger, in northern Sudan, in parts of Mali, in Mauritania, if that language has been there since 640 AD, even if it never had an Afrasian origin in Africa, it would be a nonsense to say it's not an African language now, given the length. However, here's my caveat, and you know I always have a caveat. My problem is people who have forms of writing have a tendency to be snooty about languages which are not written down. There's a tendency for Arabic speakers to call any other language Rotana. Or Rotana. You know what that means. It comes on one level, it can mean dialect. On a nasty level, it can mean gibberish. Like Berbera. The word Berber. Now, what I'm saying is, We need our people who are separated by that hip or trench to come to an understanding with each other. And that understanding cannot be based on a mistake that the great Gamal Abdel Nasser made. He made a slight mistake, and even Nkrumah made that mistake. Nkrumah said in Ghana, you see, sometimes we blame people and say, he made that mistake because he was an Arab. But when Africans make it, we try to find excuses for them. Gamal Abdel Nasser said that there was no benefit in looking down. What he meant is they have to teach Africa south of themselves. They are the teachers and we are the learners. Kwame Nkrumah said about Ghana, the northern part of Ghana is Muslim and largely uneducated. The southern part is highly educated and Christian. And Nkrumah said, with their muscles, the people of the north, and our intellect, Ghana will go forward. Now, the people of the north said, you've put us down, as if being northern, we're illiterate, and all we can bring is manpower. We're not slaves. It's like saying that you're master and we're slaves. You think and we work. Right? So let's excuse our leaders when they make these sort of mistakes, because you have to remember there was no blueprint for Muammar Gaddafi, for Gamal Abdel Nasser, for Kwame Nkrumah, for Sekou Toure, for Modibo Keita of Mali. When these guys came to power, Lumumba was 28. Gaddafi was 20. They were children. My children are older than them. Can you imagine running a country at 28? So these guys were gonna make mistakes. They didn't even know what the West had waiting in store for them. So we have a situation today now where we're behind everybody, because I don't know any other continent that is divided along the lines, divided and dividing further along the lines of religion. The Hippo Trench, which is where, yes, we have South African south of the Sahara becoming evangelized more and more day by day. From Malawi in the south to Uganda, everywhere you go there's a preacher by the side of the road. In Nigeria, the church is it forms a para-society. They have their own lawyers, they have their own hospitals, and the leaders all have aeroplanes. Exactly. So what we are looking at, and I know a lot of that money comes from Texas. That's where a lot of it starts. Because African economies have the ability to generate that kind of money, but that would be stolen by politicians. And I'm sure some of these religious leaders, they do dash the politicians. They've got to do it to stay where they are. You dash them. But my problem is, at the end of the day, what we are talking about, if we fully want to be Pan-African, I think we have to stop this nonsense about discussing religion this much. I don't hear the people of Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. What's the other country down there? Thailand? No, one of those. I don't hear them exercised and killing each other over religion and making religion such an almighty big deal. The people who are complaining about the Fulani, it's sad for me to tell you that they're complaining because the Fulani are Muslim. It's a kind of complaint. And the person complaining is my color and telling me the Fulani hate her people. I said, let me tell you something. If you said that about my brother's people here, I'd say you're right. They don't marry anybody else, you know that. But Fulani in Africa, they're married to everybody else. If you go to Gambia, the head of state is called Barrow. Barrow is a Fulani, but he's mixed. The head of state of Nigeria, Muhammad Buhari, is a Fulani. They are mixed. They call them Fulani Ngida. They are Fulani mixed. They call them Fulani Ngida in Hausa. So wherever you go, you find Fulani mixed with the people there. So it's not a place where they come like, and I hate to drop tribes again, like how the Tutsi came in certain parts of Africa and acted superior to the people there. But what we do know is, if you start demonizing a people, you are legitimizing a possible genocide. You are legitimizing a possible ethnic cleansing, to be invoking history of Africa, when Africa was in a state of upheaval, to justify why the Fulani should be oppressed, should be driven out. is legitimizing genocide. And that is my problem with a person who tells me they're a Pan-Africanist like myself, but when I say, here's a post about 100 Fulani massacred, women and children in a village by the Dogon militia in Mali, the first thing she comes up with, they're slavers anyway. They all keep slaves. I said, which African group in that sub-region does not keep slaves? She said, oh, in Senegal they keep slaves. I said, wait. In Senegal, you see when people talk, they don't know who they are talking to.
True.
I said, in Senegal, we have lived for 1 year. They said, the Soninke, you have Tukulor, you have Wolof, you have Serer. All of them, the societies are divided along the lines of caste. And the lowest caste, in Mandinka, they use the word Jong. Jong, you speak, what language do you speak? You speak Hausa Fulani. No, this is Jong. In Mandinka, it means slave. The Wolof have the word Jam. Jam, it means like slave. Now, this is not the slave as in the transatlantic experience. No. It's like domestic servitude. Yes. And that is exactly what the Fulani practice. The Fulani are no different from, say, the Serer, the Hausa, because you know the Hausa, so I mentioned Hausa for you. They're no different in how they treat their lower caste. Because let's run it right down. It's a problem of caste. It's not caste as sharply etched as in Hinduism. That's a whole different level of caste. But it's there, and I'm not running away from it. But what I found problematic is the person demonizing or singling out the Fulani as a people who, but they keep slaves. What the person was saying, and I wouldn't say to create a problem for her, is that the Fulani are Muslims and it's a jihad. That's what they're trying to say. That's what they're trying to say. And that's why I say we need to try to find ways to reverse this hippo trench. Africa is actually being cut. It's like somebody has cut it in half along the Sahel and it's drifting apart. The Christianization or I don't even mind Christianization. I'm worried about evangelization. I'm not worried about
at the end of the day, it's neo-colonialism.
Yes!
Let
me balance that. I'm not worried about Islam. I'm worried about jihadism. I am worried about it. You see me? I state my case clear. I'm a Muslim. But I don't expect anybody to want to be a Muslim because my path is not theirs. I found Islam, and if I didn't like it, I wouldn't be doing it.
Well, it's enshrined in the Constitution of Medina. When the Prophet ﷺ went to Medina, what did he do? He made the constitution between the Muslims and the Jews. He said, your faith, your religion, your culture, your customs to you, and our faith to us. But we come together on mutual goodness. Meaning if we are attacked by an outside enemy, we will come together to mutually defend each other.
Right.
So these aspects are enshrined there. The problem comes in is with the ignorance that comes into certain communities that actually do not look back to these, what we would call legal maxims. Because the Constitution of Medina is a legal maxim that is relevant for Muslims living in Nigeria, relevant for Muslims living in Indonesia, relevant to Muslims living in England.
Right.
Done. You have, as the Quran says, to your religion, to my religion. But you know what? Let's look at the commonality here. And the Quran
to the creed, attain to what you must do.
The Quran says, come together on a common good. Right. Does your children go? Do you got children?
No.
Right. If you had children, they went to school and they were
if I had a child, I wouldn't go to public school. I teach them at home.
Right.
Go send them to private school.
But you would not want it being exposed to elements that would be anti-African or anti-whatever.
No, but at the same time, in the public schools of today, they expose people's children to that.
Yeah.
And they come home with bad attitude and bad behavior and become indoctrinated.
No, I agree.
And then the parents them become afraid of the youth them.
No, I agree with you.
They fear the social. It's all in the mind. They fear the youth them that they send, that the mother push out, or they send to the government school to pick up bad behavior and eat all kind of mix and blend.
But that's the thing, right? If there was something, there was a commonality between my child and your child, and they're being taught the badness, I would come together with you and say, you know what?
We need to take a stand.
We need to take a stand here.
That's right.
Now, I'm not telling you to come to the mosque.
No.
You're not telling me maybe to go worship Salah-hu-deen.
Yeah.
You want to do that? That's your business. That's between you and God. I worship God and I believe, you know, But at the end of the day, if my child is being taught like this, if your child is, I will come together with you. Because the issue, the Quran tells me to do these things.
In the word of unity, for good over evil.
And that's the
you
thing.
You have to forget about all of this materialism. His Majesty says you have to bow down to no form of imagery, no form of institution bring forth through mankind. Right? So like you said, my child, your child go to school and pick up bad behavior. We can't applaud them. We have to investigate. But the usual parents today will clout the child. And when they keep clouting the child becomes the child of the system. And when they look now, they divide the child from the parents and they say exchange parenting. Right? Because the parents are afraid of the youth them. They're afraid of them.
Because this is the system
it's disgraceful. Right? I just send them back home. Send them back home to the east where they come from and teach them the right way. Don't make the youth them come into the house with bad behavior. Because they're afraid. They're afraid of them. They're broke wild.
Children of colour. We know black boys and white boys are equal in the educational system up to the age of 7. And then something happens.
Is he mental? Are you mad?
We know there's inequality in the educational system with the black boys and the white boys up until a certain age. And then we know that there's disinvestment.
It comes down to class because also within the browning of the brown nationality, right, you have this half caste. But then you say you can't call them that, so they call them mulatto, but they take offense.
Listen,
it gets even bigger.
Listen, I'm going to tell you a story.
It's ridiculous.
When my son was born, my mother-in-law was from Grenada. Right? My wife is half Grenadian, half Nigerian, right? My mother-in-law just come from Grenada, and she's talking to us, said, well, you see them ugly black children.
You see them feel sooty. Again, we can't blame them because
no, it's a miseducation.
Right, and they were instilled in that because we had classes and back home in Jamaica, in the Caribbean. We had it, right, down to the history of certain small countries. You know, and it's instilled there today. Even like if you have a child that's more melanated than the most, you know, they treat them different.
I had a friend of mine. Because my family are from.
Tupac say the black and the bird is sweet to the Jews. I've seen people with all bleach out face and to me it's still
I know.
Like, beauty.
My family from Jamaica, and a friend of mine, I was with him, and he's from Jamaica, and he said, when you was younger, your hair grew. What kind of hair? You got nappy hair. I said, don't use them kind of words around me. I said, don't use them. I said, them words were used to demonize and to make a people feel inferior, to feel as though I'm less. Because what happens? We went to the church and we look up.
Because the terminology of this pulling hair business came from the slavery boat that they called Mary and Jesus. We never had no nappy hair, no nigger, no. So I've never heard such a thing. There's a video I have on my phone, and it's a Jamaican woman. She said, come, let me tell you something. All those who are talking about the black woman, them, about the brown woman, them, the Edomites, the white people, they bleach their skin too. They wear braids too. The fake grey Jews, they wear plaques too.
Well, what did Frances Cress-Wilson say? She said there's more white people that want to be black. And when she was sitting next to this racist guy, and he said, well, how you know? He said, how many of them like to go on suntan? How many like to go sit on the sunbed?
They've been bleaching a long time.
What does the average white woman in this society say? They say they want someone tall, dark and handsome, not short and PSD.
They must want to be FG, because it's very hard to find them.
I know.
Well, in my mind, man with big belly have money, so the big man have money. Big belly man have money.
but these ideas, they filter down and they become a global thing. And this is what's being played out in Africa now, is that they're pitting people with a Muslim against a Christian, an animist against a Christian, or a Christian against and it's all the bigger thing.
I forget, but personally, I believe and I know there's good and bad in Obia, and if we don't get back to our spiritual side very soon, the masses of them, not I, including them, make us will fall.
Of course.
You know, the spirit is so strong.
If you're not linking.
The other day I had a spiritual cleanse, and when I woke up this morning, I felt so good. I felt so good. I said, I'm going to put on my name brand and come down here. See me and take in some little small knowledge, and you know, because the spirit is what leads us. You know, your head doesn't say turn left and you find 20 pounds. No, your spirit.
If you do not link in with that spiritual, the divine, then what you're going to start doing, you're going to start making rules on your own self.
That's
which
right.
what? Then the diseases of your heart.
Yes.
The diseases
because
of
the
your
king
heart.
Haile Selassie say, a man without knowledge is like a tree without roots. You must follow your heart and not your head, because you'll get led astray. Look at those of the previous empires that followed their head.
Look at the Roman Empire was a good example.
The Ottoman,
They
all
fell.
of them.
They fell. Why? Because they felt their desires. They followed their desires.
Yeah.
See, they fell. They
Lust.
stopped following.
They lost.
Yeah.
They follow their lust and their want to not get it.
And what do we see? We're living in a society today that's going the same way.
Yeah.
They're following their desires, their corrupted desires. They want to push this on you and that on you, and even though it's anti-human. Forget about being anti-black. That's our thing. Anti-human. And you
Yesterday they
push
had
that
a
on
protest here, anti-Brexit. I think it's obnoxious.
It's not going to happen.
I think it's obnoxious. Listen, this lady needs to stand for this country that's been on so many people's back for many, many decades. I believe this country has to stand on their own 2 feet, and you will see the change, right? Because who's been brought forth, majority of them haven't even been checked. I went for a job the other day with a big company, and they found out one old robbery from 2013, and they declined it. But these people coming from all underneath the ground, they're not checking them, and it's not right. It's not right. And they fight against women very, very highly in this country. It's a disgrace.
Yeah, why?
It's
Because this country now is at the forefront of what they do.
Very abominable. It's
What's
very
this country doing now? They're
disgusting.
pushing this transgender rubbish.
Fire in our room. Through the beat.
Yeah, Babylon Fan. Babylon Fan
Through
one
the
day.
beat. Right? Deception will always be wrong. If you go to House of Parliament, it's women who are security all over Parliament. Yeah? It's women who secure these high places. Right? And they fight against women very highly in this country. I think it's a fucking disgrace.
You know what? But look at what is the roots of this society. It's ancient Greece.
Yeah.
And what was ancient Greece dealing in? Little boys.
Sogomoromoro.
What-
Just like religion was dealing in
Right.
Sogomoromoro.
What did Socrates say? He said a man's highest level of love is with another man. And women are just there to produce little boys to be loved by men.
Fire in our room. Fire, yes. But at the same time, like today I was on the bus coming here and I was playing some old school Lawrence Hill, and I see a sodomite with pink hair and purple face pushing a little boy, and he was not in head. And I said, what a confusion here. What a confusion. But also, if two men can love a child and treat that child better than a man would deceive a woman and cheat on a woman, let it be. I'm sorry, nature is nature at the end of the day. If two men can raise a child and not expose
but
that
to me,
child,
that is not natural.
it's
That's a
not
choice.
natural.
That is a choice they make.
But also choice is religion. Religion is choice. It's choice. So what is better for you, right? What not good for the cut, not good for the yonder. Yeah? We have to follow our heart and not our head.
But it has to be a heart that has a criteria to see and good. Because as I tried to explain to one woman one time, and I was explaining to her, we were just talking about religion, and she said, well, I did pray on Christianity and I know it's correct. I said, how you know that?
How should you know that?
She said, well, I feel it.
Has she been to the Vatican to
She
see
said,
if it's correct?
oh, she said, I feel it. I said, you feel it? I said, I'm going to ask you a question here, and it may upset you. I said, when a paedophile is doing their nastiness, it feels good to them. So, is that from God? She said, no. I said, how you know that feeling ain't from the devil? Because I said, when them do them nastiness to children, that's from the devil.
Hell and low is the same
That's from the
thing.
devil.
Yes.
And she's like, oh. I said, so you can't just go on a feeling. You have to have a criteria.
Yes,
You have an
you have to
external
follow through.
thing.
You have
Yes.
to step fast.
Yeah.
Be true to your word and follow it through. Sometimes when we meditate, we have to take ourselves afar.
Yeah.
As the Naya being a family that we are, right? And His Majesty. We trod. And when we trod, we travel. When we travel, we become more spiritually connected. You know, and we start to see. I've seen a few people from here follow we, but you can see they're still like weary. Yeah, they're weary in it. But come forward. Put your hand up and say, I don't know, but they're afraid. It's like society's coward to say, I'm ashamed to say I don't know. Then pretend, yes sir, no sir. And then they get found out like the lady, and then feel like PC.
Yeah.
They feel like nothing but PC.
Because what? Arrogance. Take it to the fire.
Right.
Take it, misguide you. And the thing is, take a stand on something. Because like Malcolm X said, if you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for everything.
Well, you know, definitely.
That's it. Done. take a stand and have a criterion to take that stand back. And it has to be right and wrong, good or bad.
Right, but two wrongs don't make a right. That's right. That's right. All right, Reggie. Let's
Sister,
get
take it easy, yeah?
Can't take over everything from your melody. Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC.